Hello friends, in this video we will see the product dashboard. So let's get started. First let's see our data sets. We'll be using an item data set which is an Excel file. It has item ID from 1 to 5, item class and the item subclass. Our next data set will be a vendor Excel sheet which will have the item ID, the year which contains 2019 and 2020 data, the quarter, the vendor names, the vendor cities where they belong to, the transportation cost, the item cost, manufacturing cost, miscellaneous cost, and the quantity which was produced. So, first of all, in Power BI, we'll go to our options and settings, go to this options and deselect the time intelligence so that it does not create a default date. So we have to disable this so that the default date table is not created in our model. After that is done, we'll create our date table. To create the table, you have to go to this second view, which is the data view. Here we have create new table. You have to click on create new table. Enter a name for the table and enter the expression. So for my date table, the date column gets created automatically, in which we have used this DAX function calendar with a start date and an end date. The start date is 2019 Jan and the end date is 2020 December. Once this is created, we create the other columns, that is the year. For this, we use the year DAX function on the my date value. For quarter number, we are using the quarter function. The other one is the year and quarter. Here we are concatenating the date from the date table, the year value with a hyphen. Then we concatenate with a Q, as you can see, and the quarter number. So our results will be year 2019 Q1 up to 2020 Q2. Next, we'll go and create a measure table, create a blank table, and we start creating the measures. First is the total cost, in which we are adding the sum of all the costs which we are having in the vendor Excel sheet. Vendor Excel sheet, we had this from transportation cost to the miscellaneous cost. So these all we are adding up here using the sumx function. Sumx function takes a table name and then an expression. In the expression, using the AND operator, I have just added all these things. The next thing is the last year's total cost, that is LY total cost. For that, we have to use calculate function, take the total cost which we created, and we are using the date add function, which takes the date from my date table minus 1 year. So it will take the previous year because minus 1 is the previous year here. We are using the all function so that it has no filters in the table anymore. The third one is the revenue, in which we are using the total cost which we created and multiplying it with the sum of the vendor quantity. So if you see the model, there are multiple costs for a single vendor, so it does the sum of them and multiplies it with the quantity. For the last year revenue, similar as we created our total cost for the last year, we're using the revenue here, and here we are using a different function, that is a sample period last year. Here we have to use the date table, so sample period will take it for the previous last year. This is an inbuilt function in DAX. Once we have created our measures, let's go and create our report. So first report, here we have uses a text. So if you can see, this is a text box. We have used this formatting bold and this is at the center. Then we have added two slicers, that is for year and quarter. So if you see, these are the slicers. We have used few formatting here for the background and all. Sorry. After that, the first card expression which we are using here, this is a summary table, sorry, the summary page for us. So we are using a cost KPI. So for this, we are using this KPI visual. KPI visual takes into account an indicator, a target, and a trend axis. So for target, we have given our total cost for the last year. So if you see the goal, this is the total cost for the last year. Year is the trend axis and indicator is the total cost. So the difference which we see here is the difference of last year cost and the total cost. And since it is greater, it is not in negative, we are getting it as green. So our goal was met up. This is the meaning of this. Same if we see for revenue, we are using the revenue indicator. Target is the last year revenues and the trend axis is for year. Here if we change these slices, our values gets changed. Here let me show you if we want to see this. We can select these two also together using the control and even this. So if you see last year, total cost for both the years was 3742088, which is the same which we can see here and is the percentage increase from last year. Now let's go to vendor cost. For this, we are using the same card visual. And here we are counting the distinct number of vendors from our data set. The max cost will show as the maximum cost for all the item cost, manufacturing cost, miscellaneous cost, and the transportation cost. Top city by revenue. Here, the first trick is when we create this, we have to create it as a grid because these filters will not appear if we are using the card expression, that is a card visual at the beginning. So first take a grid, create this, we'll get an option here. You can drag the vendor by revenue and the top, and we will filter it by the top first. And later we just convert it to the card visual. For top city by cost, we did a similar thing here, but only the metrics that we are using is total cost. Top vendor by revenue. Here we are using the vendor. Earlier we were using the city. Top vendor by cost, same, but only the metrics, that is the factor value, is total cost here. Here also we can see the interactive nature. Based on the year and quarter which we select, it keeps on changing. If we say 2019, we get blank values here because it doesn't have a last year. Our data starts from 2019 and 2020 it has. Let's go to next sheet, which is the item sheet. So same, we have copied these visuals from the previous pages. It has the slice of a year and a quarter. This visual will show us the top and bottom revenue. We have added the item ID, item class, item subclass, and the revenue. For revenue, we have used a conditional formatting. For the font color, here we are formatting by rules and it applies only to values based on the revenue field. If value is greater than 0% and less than 3%, it has to be red. That is a poor performer, then a medium, and then a best performer. So if we can see, milk was the best performer and corn and cumin were low performers. Same thing we have done for the cost. Here only the values are different. For the percent values are different here, if you can see. This visual shows as the revenue comparison. So here we are using the item ID, item class, the revenue, and the last year revenue. So this last year revenue I already showed you from our measure table how we have created it. So this gives us a comparison between them. For the cost comparison, we are using the same total cost and the LOI, that is the last year cost, as a comparison. Now next, let's move on to the next sheet, which is the vendor sheet. Here we have copied the slices for year and quarter. Cost by city, here we are using the city and the vendor, and we are sizing the bubbles based on the total cost here. So you can see here the city Chennai spices has a total cost higher than everyone. Same we have for revenue by city, just the metric has changed to revenue here. Here also we can see Bangalore has the maximum one based on the size of the bubbles. The last one which we have in this report is the cost by vendor. Here we are using this 100% stacked column chart. If you see for Kolkata, that is a vendor, I want to see among all the 4 costs, what was the highest cost he spent for. So here we can see his item cost was the maximum as is shown in the visual. For Bangalore, we had the miscellaneous cost was maximum. Here we can see Gujarat, the miscellaneous cost and this were approximately the same. So since we are comparing the values within the same level, that is the for each vendor we want to see how it was spent, all these costs, the division between the same quantity or the total cost. Therefore we are using this 100% stack chart to show this comparison. Thank you for watching.